Well, hello everyone. It is Karen Ann Harlos again, the Pink Parliamentarian, with your weekly, we skipped a week last week, but pretty much weekly, down and dirty tips and tricks on parliamentary procedure, specifically Robert's Rules of Order. I am a registered parliamentarian with the National Association of Parliamentarians. You can check out my site at pinkparliamentarian.com, or you can make inquiries about perhaps retaining me for your parliamentary needs. My rates are very reasonable, and I do offer free, brief consultations. But let's get right to today's topic, which is a continuation, which I think these shows are going to build upon each other. And this is now we're finally getting to what is a majority. Now on this one, I'm going to be able to give a real life example of a typical error with the person's name and organization not mentioned to protect the guilty. And it was actually brought to my attention because of their severe overconfidence in their own abilities. And we can all do that. Usually when you are most convinced of something particularly simple, like what is a majority, sometimes, that's God's way of humbling you because you have it grievously wrong. So we will give an example without giving any names. So let's get back to that deceptively simple question. What is a majority? Most people will reflexively say 50% plus one. I used to say that all the time. But it's fundamentally wrong. Though in a perfect statistical model, you'll be mistakenly right half of the time. Let's take a look at what the most current edition of Robert's Rules actually has to say on it. And I have my notes, and I'll need my glasses. This can be found in 44.1. It says, the basic requirement for approval of an action or a choice by a deliberative assembly, except where a rule provides otherwise, is a majority vote. The word majority means more than half. And when the term majority vote is used without qualification, let's stop and note that for a second, because this might be a bonus episode, because sometimes it will say a majority of the entire membership. That's different than just a majority vote. As in the case of the basic requirement, it means more than half of the votes cast by persons entitled to vote, excluding blanks or abstentions, at a regularly or properly called meeting. And it's made clear in other authorities, and it's certainly implied here, that it is a meeting where a quorum is present. And I would also add, which this will become relevant in another future episode, where proper notice is given. The reason it excludes abstentions, because you remember, what does abstain mean? Abstain means literally not to vote. So they are present, but they are not voting. So they are not counted in the denominator of determining a majority, because a majority is more than half of those present and voting. So a person is present for quorum purposes, but not part of the denominator for determining a majority. And as I said before, there are some circumstances, such as when it requires the entire membership, where an abstention is an effective no, but it still is the person not voting. So why isn't a majority 50% plus one? But that brings me to the example error I want to give. We have it up on the screen. As you can see, it says vote threshold required, majority of eligible voting members, and then it puts in parentheses 8. Now, this is an email ballot, so we don't have to worry about absences. But is the vote threshold really 8? Let me just tell you for your reference that in this calculation, the eligible voting members assumed here is 15. So a majority of 15 would in fact be 8, but does it require as a vote threshold 8 people to vote in the affirmative to pass? No, because this is the beginning of an email ballot. How do you know everyone's going to vote? How do you know there isn't going to be any abstentions? And it's always of eligible voting members. This is a classic example of trying to be too cute. All it needed to say, vote threshold required, majority. That's it. Don't get overly fancy to try to seem like maybe you know more than you do, or you're just trying to be so precise and excellent. No, it complicates things. And when you do things like that, you most usually mess it up or create an ambiguity, as happened here. It does not require 8 votes. It requires a majority of those present and voting. So why isn't a majority 50% plus 1? Because that would require 1 extra vote for passage or failure in circumstances where there are an odd number of people present and voting. Let's go back to my notes here. Take, for example, 19 votes. What is a majority? Well, anything more than half. Half is 9.5, which rounds up to 10. And since there are not real half men, with all due respect to Tyrion Lannister, if you try to apply the 50% plus 1, you would end up with 11, because 9.5 plus 1 would be 10.5, which rounds up to 11. So you do not add 1. You just divide it in half, and then if it ends up with the half man, like 9.5, it goes up to 10. So every odd number will do that. Well, okay, everyone. Thank you for joining me. Remember, you can find out more about my services at pinkparliamentarian.com. And I would love it if you would subscribe to this channel and share it with others who would like to learn quick parliamentary tips. And you can also check out my other channels, Pink Flame of Liberty, where I do libertarian political commentary, if that interests you at all, and also Jurassic Dictionary, where I take a look at either obsolete or words that are on the verge of extinction and try to mix it in with my love of history. But it's mostly just about unique words to try to revive them and have a little bit of fun. Again, that is Pink Flame of Liberty and Jurassic Dictionary. Hit subscribe on all 3. Do the hat trick while you're at it. Until next week, you have an awesome day, night, afternoon, whatever it might be in your part of the world. Thank you so very much.